I saw a recent news report that was asking why a domestic airfare is so expensive at the moment. Now, recently I have actually gone on a trip over to Japan, and the total cost of the airfare is around 1,000 New Zealand dollars. Granted, it was a special deal for airfares to Japan, which does make me wonder if a 13-hour trip all the way to Japan costs 1,000 New Zealand dollars return, mind you. How much would a domestic airfares cost? And so this is when I went to Google Flights and tried to look up some airfare costs as comparison. If we go to Google Flights, don't forget to turn on your incognito mode whenever you are searching for airfares so that your browser doesn't record your search history, which may affect the prices that you get. So if we just look at a standard flight, let's say I want to go from Auckland all the way to Wellington. Let's say if I just want to go for a very cheap, probably like a weekend trip, if I want to go from somewhere in September and then come back in about 2-3 days, the cost of the round trip is $178 if we go for the cheapest option, which is with Jetstar. But obviously that gives you a terrible time. Which flies from 6 a.m., which is not really a time that you really want to be catching the air. One of the main things that I use is I look up the price graph. This price graph is actually a very handy little chart that shows you the airfare over a range of time. So from here you can set up how many days you want a trip to be. So let's say if I don't want a 2-day trip, I want a 3-day trip, I can up it to 3 days. And there I can just kind of quickly scroll along and see which one has the cheapest fares. So here, for 3-day trip, the lowest at the moment is around 132 New Zealand dollars. Just as a comparison, I wanted to see how much the airfare costs that goes from Auckland to Sydney. So let's look at September around the same time, and we look at the price graph again for Auckland to Sydney. And let's look at a month in advance. Let's go back to a 3-day trip again. 3-day trip from Auckland to Sydney, it's $347. $347. And even if you go in October on a Friday to a Monday, it's $340. Then this is going from Auckland all the way to Sydney. Like, this is a lot cheaper than I expected, which by comparison makes the domestic airfare seem really expensive. So let's have a look at this video and see why the domestic airfares are so expensive at the moment.
All morning we've been flooded with your feedback about the cost of flying. Tauranga to Nelson, $500. Dunedin to Palmy, over $1,000.
Over $1,000 from Dunedin to Palmerston North. That's absolutely insane. For $1,000, like I said before, I went on a trip from Christchurch to Tokyo, $1,000.
Auckland to Dunedin, 2 adults, 1 child, $2,500 return. But flying domestically doesn't have to be expensive. London to Barcelona is just $200. Why?
London to Barcelona is $200. This is why it's so convenient living in Europe. You could go to so many different countries within such a short time frame.
Why is it cheaper to fly from one country to another than it is to travel within our own? Air New Zealand's Chief Customer and Sales Officer, Leanne Garrity, joins us now. Leanne,
We'd
thanks
love to
for
see what
coming
they
on.
say about this.
Why are prices so high?
Well, I think, Anna, prices vary considerably. So we offer a range of airfares, and if you consider our domestic network, we actually have fares starting from $59 right through and up to our higher fare levels when demand is really high for those last seats.
$59. Look, tell me where I can find $59 seats. Tell me where I can find $59 seats. Because the most common route is probably either Auckland to Wellington or Auckland to Christchurch. And you're not going to find any $59 seats.
So there are ranges of airfares available. In fact, over the July school holidays, we flew 400,000 customers across 6,000 flights at an average fare of just under $200.
Okay, so that probably was a lot of people who knew it was school holidays and made plans to pre-book and all that sort of stuff.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that goes into forming airfares, but one of the most important thing is they mark up the prices by a lot if you're close to the actual departure day, and this is something that they definitely do. And again, remember, use incognito mode when you search for airfare tickets.
So it could be the aircraft type, its demand, it's our cost base, it's the duration of the flight. And so we start selling flights 12 months in advance, and we need to manage those flights across that 12-month period. Our main focus is making sure that we offer a range of airfares that are affordable for everyone. The bigger the range we can offer, the more people that can travel, and therefore what we like to make sure is that we are doing everything we can to keep airfares as low as we possibly can, and actually ultimately that comes back to capacity, and we are working really hard to get our capacity at levels that will ease airfares.
This sounds like a whole bunch of PR speak. She said a lot of things, but she pretty much said nothing at all. Of course, everything is about, the distance that you're flying. Well, it's common sense. It's common sense. We're not saying that, things shouldn't cost relative to the distance that you're flying. The question is, why are international fares, especially, let's say, if we go from Auckland to Sydney, is only about twice the price of going from Auckland to just Wellington? That part is the part that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
So what you're saying is you've got too many flyers because everyone's complaining about the price. There's no one writing in saying, hey, I got a great bargain.
No, demand is very, very high at the moment, and in fact it has been since travel has been enabled again and borders have opened.
So you're capitalising on that, right? You're making a profit off that demand.
No, we are not necessarily.
I love when they say that they're not capitalizing on the high demand of people going traveling. I have no idea how she's going to spin this. They're absolutely going to capitalize on the amount of people that's actually wanted to travel. This is just real amazing spin doctor stuff.
Necessarily making a profit off that demand. It is an element that goes into forming airfares and prices. So in terms of the demand, we have an inflated cost base like all other businesses. We're not immune to it. So our costs are actually up over 25% compared to pre-COVID levels. So we do need to make sure that we cover our cost base.
I would love to see if she actually explains where the increases in these costs are from. So the 25% from what exactly? Fuel prices have not actually increased as much as people would have thought or anticipated because of all of the subsidies that has happened so far. So where does this expensive cost basis actually come from? You can't just pile everything onto this broad basket of inflation again.
We are also, as I said, seeing high demand, and so it's balancing those things together. In terms of profit, it is actually important that we are able to make a profit, because over the next period we're investing $3.5 billion in aircraft, which will mean that we bring more capacity into the market and enables us to bring airfares down.
You look like you're scalping though. This is a note from Reuters. On June the 8th, Air New Zealand has upgraded its full year forecast for earnings before other significant items on the back of strong demand, that's us paying those prices, and lower jet fuel prices.
See, I love this presenter. I don't tend to watch a lot of standard news, but I love her. She's asking the actual questions, and you gotta ask these questions to make these PR people feel a little bit uncomfortable.
We're definitely not scalping. As I said, our cost base has increased by over 25%. So it's not only fuel that's a component of pricing, it's all of the supply chain that goes along the way, it's wages, it's aircraft landing fees, navigation charges. Is inflated. We're not immune to it. We're like every other business and like individuals that are dealing with the inflationary pressures.
And like every other airline?
Yes, all airlines.
How come other airlines can do cheap prices at the moment?
Yep, so there are different models for airlines. So low-cost carriers is
I love it. How are the other airlines able to be cheap while Air New Zealand is extremely expensive? Damn.
And ultra-low-cost carriers are a totally different model to Air New Zealand.
Do you know what a main problem is? The main problem is that Air New Zealand is pretty much the main and the biggest airline here in New Zealand, they have pretty much a monopoly going on. That's what it is. New Zealand, the country that's full of monopolies, just like the supermarkets.
We consider ourselves a premium full service carrier.
What do I get on a domestic flight from Auckland to Wellington that makes you a full premium service rather than...
Okay. Auckland to Wellington. What is a premium service on a domestic flight? You're not even on there for that long. You're on there for maximum about 1 hour. What kind of premium service are you going to get? You're going to get some biscuits? You're going to get some tea?
And a low-cost carrier.
What you actually get is a loyalty program, you get a lounge offering, you get a global network that's connected with regional and domestic.
You don't get all these stuff with your basic economy air flights. What on earth is she saying?
Services. So there are a range of other things as a full service carrier we provide.
Is that the most important thing to the majority of your domestic travellers at the moment, do you think?
It's a very important component of what we offer to our customers. Very important.
I have never used a lounge. I just sit where the normal people sit. No lounges, just your normal waiting area.
And we are not a low-cost carrier, and we're not intending to be a low-cost carrier. So what we are focused on is actually delivering products and services that our customers, our entire customer base, are telling us that they want at affordable prices.
Is there room then, if there was competition in the market, would you change your strategy?
We wouldn't change our strategy, no. But obviously, as competition comes into the market, there are more seats, which means that prices are able to come down.
So basically, she is saying that without a lot of competition, we could basically, still have our prices high. And this is exactly why we need more competition. Again, just like all the other businesses, we need more competition.
Would you benefit from there being more competition in the market?
We're not focused on competition per se. We're more focused on delivering to our customers the products and services they want at prices they can afford throughout the whole year.
So what's your advice then for people who are saying, I'm not paying $2,500? The one person said the most expensive part of my flight to Samoa was the connection between Dunedin and Auckland.
Yeah, so my advice would be to book early. We've had many sales taking place over the past couple of months, and we've got some more surprises coming up across August. But look, book early. It would be my advice. Book when the sales are on would be further advice, and be flexible with your travel plans. So prices vary between flights because of demand.
Yeah, be flexible. Don't use Air New Zealand and use some other cheaper air flights.
How much are things other than fuel, so I don't know, staffing shortages or not enough planes or not enough space at airports, impacting that price?
Look, aside from fuel, there's wage increases. So it's not actually staff shortages, but it is making sure that we are paying our people appropriately.
Wage increases. I don't think that really accounts for the amount that they're charging. If they're actually charging thousands for domestic flight, wage increases is not the reason.
And retaining them within the business. And
how much of an impact would you say that's having on prices?
There's a reasonable increase in wages. Supply chain is the big thing. So every aspect of our supply chain, we are seeing inflationary pressures and increases. So
look, I am tired of this. She's basically just a PR person, just trying to spin some random BS about how inflation, again, everyone's using inflation as an excuse. They're basically trying to capture more money from people, like the stuff that they have pretty much missed out during all of the lockdown period. And they're just trying to get some back. Obviously, they are not really allowed to say things like that. But hey, that looks exactly like what is happening at the moment.